Hi everyone and welcome to Protocol 36, and in today's video we'll be speculating which characters from the Marvel What If show will show up in live action in future MCU projects. Now before we get started, if at any point you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you could drop a like, as that would really help out the channel. Thank you. With episode 1 of What If coming out last Wednesday, receiving a great amount of praise and love, it has caused a lot of people if we're going to see any of the characters from the show appear in live action. Luckily Brad Winderbaum around last week when asked if we're going to see the characters from What If show up in live action form and if the show was going to be connected to any MCU projects, did say that there's always a chance, and even though it's animated, it is part of the MCU, which we all knew thanks to the multiverse. So assuming that Marvel Studios are going to bring some of the characters from the animated series into the live action films and shows, which ones are they going to be? Now the characters that I'm going to choose isn't really a wish list, just more so which one I think will most likely show up in the show. Starting off with probably the most obvious one, Uatu the Watcher, who in the show is voiced by Jeffrey Wright. Uatu in the comics is a pretty big deal and a very important character, so it would make a lot of sense to eventually bring him into the live action films and shows, especially when the multiverse is the next big thing in the MCU now, with him observing the events that is going on in each universe, already making him one of the most important characters in the MCU going forward. Not to mention we already saw some of the Watchers in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, so it's safe to say that we're definitely going to see him and his race again. Next we have Captain Carter. Now in my opinion, Peggy as Captain Carter is definitely one of the characters who is more likely to show up in live action, as not only is she a returning character, as we know from the trailers, where we do see Peggy talking to the evil Doctor Strange. Not to mention What If is confirmed to have a season 2, which will not only have 9 episodes, but also Captain Carter is confirmed to return in season 2. Plus it has been rumored that Hayley Atwell will actually return as Captain Carter in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now even though I don't think she will appear in the film, if so then she's probably just going to have a cameo in a post-credit scene, I still think we will eventually see that version of Peggy Carter in live action, and I also think Marvel do have big plans for her in the future. Next we have the mini-angled one. We saw it fighting Captain Carter and killing this universe's Red Skull. Now until they showed its mouth, I thought this was going to be Shumagorath, and even though it could just be a random monster from a different dimension, I do think that this could be a many-angled one, which is in fact what Shumagorath's race is called in the comics, which means that we could see more of them in Doctor Strange 2, and of course having Shumagorath being the main villain of that film, if the rumors are actually true. And Marvel probably used this episode to say, hey, look out for a creature that looks similar to this one in the next Doctor Strange film. So I don't think it will be the specific mini-angled one Peggy was fighting in episode 1, as it's obviously been implied that Peggy did in fact kill it, but we will see its race in live action. And the next character we have Ultron. Now right now the Ultron episode hasn't really come out yet, but we do know that there's going to be an episode of What If that is dedicated to Ultron, and we can assume from the trailers that episode will probably ask the question, what if Ultron won in the Battle of Sokovia in Age of Ultron, since we see him in not only Vision's body wearing the Ultron armor, but we also see him with 6 Infinity Stones on his chest, possibly even kill some of, if not most of the Avengers, with Black Widow and possibly the Hulk being some of the only characters who survived. We also see Black Widow with a round shield, which is most likely Steve Rogers, but Natasha is probably using it because in this reality he most likely died. I think Ultron might also be one of the big bads, if not the main villain of the series, where each hero from the multiverse has to team up to face him. So characters like T'Challa as Star-Lord, Killmonger as the Black Panther, and Party Thor. And that team is apparently going to be called the Guardians of the Multiverse. But that's just a theory for now. However, if this is indeed the case, then I personally think there's a chance he could show up in live action. Though compared to the other characters that I'll be mentioning in this video and I've mentioned so far, I think this is very unlikely. However, never say never. Next we have Killmonger. This might be a surprise for some of you, even though he is in the thumbnail, but I think that Killmonger from What If has a good chance showing up in live action later down the line. I don't think that version will appear in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, as it looks like Wakanda vs Atlantis and Namor will be the main focus of that film, but I do think later on we will see this Killmonger cross over into the main MCU timeline. Not to mention Michael B. Jordan also said that he wouldn't mind coming back to the role, and if I'm being honest, I can't see Killmonger from the first Black Panther film coming back because of the impact his death had on Wakanda as a whole. So if Marvel wants to use Killmonger again, they could use the version from What If, who has already become Black Panther in his timeline, but at this point we just have to wait and see. And last but certainly not least, Doctor Strange Supreme, or best known as Evil Doctor Strange. That version of Stephen Strange has already been rumored to make an appearance in Doctor Strange 2 thanks to Funko Pops. For those of you who don't know, the evil Doctor Strange from What If is named Doctor Strange Supreme, and the rumored list for Funko Pops has Strange Supreme in it. So it is safe to assume that the Doctor Strange from the MCU will in fact be meeting and facing different variants of himself across the multiverse. And there's also speculation going around that the Doctor Strange we see in What If is actually the main MCU Doctor Strange that we've been following in the Infinity Saga. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that is indeed the case. And it would also somewhat explain why the mask master of the mystic arts, wasn't in WandaVision, because he's busy on what's going on in What If, which would then lead to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where Doctor Strange will continue to face bigger threats in his sequel. So I personally think Strange Supreme is one of the more likely ones to show up, and if the rumors are correct, it looks like we will see him in live action sooner or later, assuming they don't kill him off in the show. Of course, there are also other characters who could show up in live action in future MCU projects, even though they're most likely not going to in my opinion, like Party Thor, a version of Hank Pym who might become Yellow Jacket, Gamora who's dressed up as Thanos, also has his double-edged sword from Avengers Endgame, most likely taking his place, and possibly Zombie Hunter Spider-Man, even though I think it's more likely that we will see regular MCU Spider-Man, wear Zombie Hunter's Spider-Man suit instead of that version of Peter Parker showing up, especially when we're most likely going to get Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man No Way Home, instead of other Peter Parkers or Spider-People. However, what about you guys? Which characters from Marvel's What If do you think will show up in live action later down the line? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like, and want more, subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.